Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of This Korean Life, coming to you from Ulsan City. Today's podcast is brought to you by We Hope, the only foreign-run NGO based in the southern part of the peninsula. It is dedicated to working with disadvantaged youth, fostering growth and awareness in communities, and improving the lives of those in need. We Hope runs a variety of programs and fundraising events in Ulsan, Busan, and Daegu. If you'd like to volunteer or make a donation, please visit the website at www.wehopekorea.org or check them out on Facebook. That website again is www.wehopekorea.org. This podcast is also brought to you by JJ's. JJ's is Ulsan's favorite expat hangout north of the river. Patrick and June serve up cold drinks and delicious pub food daily. Their famous poutine is the only one of its kind in Ulsan. Wednesday is burger night with resident chef Tony Rowell at the grill whipping up some tasty burgers. Visit JJ's on Facebook to find out more about upcoming parties and events. Guys, today's guest is Troy McDonald. Troy was a teacher in Ulsan for maybe 10 or 15 years, and he left about 10 years ago. We were lucky to catch him while he was back visiting family on vacation. Troy has moved home and re-educated himself. He's got lots of good information to share about running businesses in Korea and the transition back home. I'll get it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy listening.
You are now tuned into This Korean Life with your hosts Brian and Nate.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to This Korean Life, our podcast out of Ulsan, South Korea. This is our second episode. I'm here with Nate and an old friend who's visiting from Canada, Troy. Troy is a legend in these in these parts of town, opening and running successfully one of Ulsan's probably first foreigner bars. Is that right?
There was one before that, the Royal Anchor.
Oh, yeah.
And then retired out of that one, then opened Benchwarmers.
Okay. We also will be providing for this episode. We'll provide subtitles for Troy's hard to understand Eastern Canadian accent.
I'm trying.
I was going to ask if you brought your translator with you.
We're glad to have you, man. How's your stay been so far?
Fantastic. It's nice not to be buried by 85 centimeters of snow, as well as minus 20 weather every single day, like it is in Ottawa at the current time.
No doubt.
I was just talking to Dad in Winnipeg. He said it's the coldest winter on record. They're expecting record floods, and it's still minus 25.
And there's that much snow left behind. Yeah.
Well, you remember Stacy? I was seeing pictures from her that she was posting from the East Coast. 5 feet of snow on the roof.
They're just getting destroyed right now.
That's terrible.
Jeez.
Now, if you had to, you must have noticed the air coming here.
Yes.
Air quality.
Yeah.
Terrible. If you had to choose air quality or snow, what are you taking?
Excellent question.
I take the snow for sure, but
yeah, I guess the snow doesn't hurt.
Yeah, no doubt.
It used to be fun as kids. Snow machining, ice fishing, building tunnels and forts and toboggan runs.
That's because Dad was shoveling the driveway at 6 a.m.
Now the most important item in your house is a shovel. It could be a matter of life or death if that thing breaks.
I was going to ask you, what's the first things that hit you when you got back? You said it's been a little while.
Two and a half, 3 years since my last visit over.
So, I don't know. It seems like stuff changes here by the week or by the month. What were the first things that hit you when you came back?
Skyline is continuously changing here.
Yeah.
Especially out in Onyang.
Yes, exactly.
Behind the KTX, that huge. Yeah.
They put the seeds in, and then they add water, and a couple months later, there's another new apartment complex. Yes. So, and I used to live right near pretty much under the KTX tracks. We had a small place there for a little while, and that's gone now. It doesn't exist. It's dirt.
Yeah.
And down these giant apartments,
huge complexes up there now. Yeah.
And there's even more as we drove around.
When you go out, do you know out towards the orphanage?
Yes, the orphanage is gone.
Yeah, there's that whole.
No, it's buried in
another monster. 2 complexes there that are just huge now.
They weren't there when I was here
Yeah.
before.
I
Yeah, it's
remember.
amazing.
I remember taking a bus to Seoul in our Jim Yoon. We were passing Guyongli, and he goes, when I first came here, that wasn't there, and I couldn't conceptualize like how could you possibly build a whole section of a city? And then I watched it develop with Hyeokshin Doshi on the way to the Bukbusan-andro? Yeah. On the big street from here going towards Costco, and every day you drive by. My in-laws live, or that space of the city's between my house and my in-laws, and driving there every week, every 2 weeks, you look, you're like, where did that apartment come from? There's 6 new buildings. There's 6 floors since last week. It's unreal.
But after living here for this long, my question now is, why is it so slow at home?
Yeah.
I mean, here, China, Japan, and anywhere that they're serious. I mean, they get her done. Why does it take years at home to build a 40, 50-story building?
Unions.
That's become my question.
Weekends
not
off.
that Asia's so weird and crazy and fast anymore. This is my normal. And
This is your norm.
wow, home is crazy that it takes them that long to do that stuff.
Now, ironically, I work in construction at home,
Are you burying bodies too?
and I'm the health and safety guy, so I may be slowing shit
So
down.
you're the reason why it takes so long.
Exactly. I am anti-progress.
But at the same time, should we be progressing at super fast rates, or taking the old school mentality of slow and
If it's your money
slow and
invested
steady?
and you're waiting for the return, you're going to want it done as fast as possible.
But I think just
If you're the
generally-
safety officer and you get in trouble every time someone falls off the scaffolding, then you're going to want to take it a little slower.
Troy, how when you were here, or when did you come to Korea?
On August 1st, 1999. This is 20 years, boys.
No way.
Yeah.
It goes by in the wink of an eye, doesn't it?
Indeed, all the cliches are true.
No doubt. And coming here, you came as a teacher.
Yep.
You had a job before you came.
Yes. Yeah. A friend of mine had been in Korea, been in Ulsan for a year from 97 to 98 or 98, 99. Come home, bumped into me, said, "Want to come to Korea?" I said, "That sounds like a blast." And 2 weeks later, I was here.
What were you doing at the time back home?
I was working at a casino as a bartender.
Nice.
Fully qualified with a university degree.
Were you a flair bartender?
No.
A little flippy? No. The
Speed, efficient.
yeah. The so you came here how long after until you decided to open bench warmers?
Well, bench warmers came a little while later. I think I was behind a bar within my first 2 months of getting off the airplane here.
Was that Anchor?
Mackenzie's.
Serving or sucking at the taps?
No,
It's funny. Mackenzie's has a new owner, and we were there soliciting him for gift card donations for our NGO.
Yeah.
And he's a new guy, and he's really eager to connect with the foreign or expat community. But I went in there to ask him and introduce our organization and to ask him for a donation. And he says, okay, come sit down. And he pulls out the tequila, and I said, "It's Wednesday night. I got to work tomorrow. I just came in for 5 minutes." Like, "You sit down." And he pours a double shot of tequila, and I went, "Oh man, I have to drive. I'm allergic to tequila." He's like, "You drink it, or I don't give you any gift cards."
Nice.
And so I had it.
So anyways, we got $200.
And we got a bunch of gift cards. Anyways, Mackenzie's is back up and yeah, at her.
you want to talk about changes since I've left? Is that whole area of old downtown?
No doubt.
Yeah, that was amazing. Part of the reason why I chose the location for bench warmers because I knew that development was coming. Unfortunately, they waited till the seventh year after I sold it.
No doubt. No, but that's it's really cool. Even down, not too with the bench warmer. Sorry, has changed into JJ's, and along that street, it's like a walking path of like
Coffee
historical
shops
and
yeah,
it's cool.
It's
isn't it?
fantastic.
It's fully.
Is there anything at home that you can recall that changes as fast as it does here?
No.
I don't even mean the big scale buildings, but like you say, like just taking a street like the old Mugudong Street.
Yes.
It used to be a dirt road.
Even
And
when
now,
I came here,
now
yeah.
it's like a full walking street with all the
They
bells
do-
and
they
whistles.
do
And
Christmas lights, and you walk down. It's like a little like.
and once they decide to do it, it doesn't take any time at all.
I wonder if part of the difference is that back home we hear about the development from the start till the finish. So we hear about all the complaining, the studies, the results, the studies, the
Right.
bit complaining back and forth. we don't hear about that here. That's all been done. We only see when shovels hit the ground and then the speed of progress.
Right.
So maybe there is some longer process that we don't think about.
Well, Nate might, because you bought an apartment out by the KTX, and I guess you're in the know now about the struggles.
Yeah, but it's a separate kind of deal. It's not one of the ones where you just put your cash down and they're already in the process of building. They haven't even started the procurement and stuff yet. So it's a different kind of setup. But I remember when I was at SK and I was teaching a vice president there, and he was the head of procurement. And he said, at home, it's all separate individual stages, and you have to pass each stage before you get to the next stage. And here he said they do 3 or 4 stages at once, and as soon as it's done, boom, they start building. And that was why the speed of, making new refineries in Vietnam or whatever, they could get through them so fast, because they're working on multiple stages at the same time, where at home, you can't even start the next stage of development until the first stage is done. And I thought that was interesting to see. That's one of the ways they can speed things up so quickly.
Cool. Being a business owner in Korea, what challenges? To get it. You were a single guy at the time?
No. Well,
or you had a
girlfriend.
No, he met his wife online before he came.
She came with the first contract.
I came in '99. There was no online.
A one.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
A one room and a wife waiting.
No, there was nothing absolutely in my name or connected to me. I was a volunteer.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
So the challenges
being a volunteer, being a volunteer bartender. What challenges did you face unforeseen that you didn't?
It was learning the business processes over here at first. The one of them that shocked me right away is that we never paid taxes on our sales. We paid taxes on what we bought.
Really?
So when we would buy our beer supply, I would pay tax based on I was going to sell all that beer, regardless of what price I chose to sell it at. I was taxed immediately on the purchase.
Oh my God!
Not based on my sales.
Oh,
yeah. So that kind of threw me for a loop, and there was that was the big one. But it was, of course, as the challenges we always have over here is language.
Yeah.
And I learned just enough Korean to get by and run the bar. And
sure.
I could forget Korean when the inspector showed up and frustrate him to the point where he just left swearing. And we had a good relationship for 7 years.
Well, I think that was a lot more common back in our earlier days. I came in 2004, and that was right after you guys had opened, I think, in 2003 maybe. But yeah, I think you can get away with that foreigner card a lot more back in those days than you can these days. It's changed a lot, and a lot of policemen speak English now, and they don't. They're a little bit more serious now than they used to be.
Yeah, we've been over here for a couple generations now.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And they've adapted.
Sure.
Like cockroaches.
How to deal with us? Not in a bad way, in a good way. Like you said. Yeah, the police speaking English.
Sure.
Every now and then I'd have one showed up who could tell me in perfect English, keep the noise down, or I'm shutting you down.
Well, we hope works closely with a few police stations now, and there's people who are fluent and have no problem.
And their foreign affairs sections have evolved and developed drastically, and
which is good for
it's
everyone.
fantastic. Yeah.
And now, I was teaching a couple of the chiefs in town, and they were leaving to go to the Philippines, one to New York, one to India, to work as an attaché in those departments, because there's so many Koreans abroad now and getting into lots of different kind of problems. Not necessarily creating the problems, but they're victims of many problems in the Philippines, where they're seen as rich and wealthy. So
targets.
They're targets. And now the Korean police are now going to those places where they can help out. So language is it's changed a lot. Where in the old days, they would just get frustrated and say, okay, don't be stupid anymore. One thing that hasn't changed is they still got their lights on advertising where they are.
Yes, it's
they're not sneaking up on
quite
anybody.
convenient for the criminal.
Fill me in on what it's like at home. Are they still hiding behind the telephone poles?
They are.
Checking the
ghost
radars.
cars.
And,
Yeah.
You gotta look for big Dodge Chargers.
No rims?
No rims?
No rims.
Yeah.
it's one thing I do enjoy, that they're on your side here, and usually they're nice, and they advertise where they are, so if you need help, you can find them.
That's good. So also you've been home for 8 years?
No, 2012 December.
Okay.
We made the move. Yeah, so 2013.
So we overlapped for about 4 years, but from that time, I noticed that you were a hustler. I don't know if that's the right word, but Not
I know,
in a bad
not
way.
a bad
Don't tell us about your teenagehood magazines.
No. I mean, you published books.
Yeah.
You were doing corporate gigs. You weren't a one-trick pony. Maybe is the way I should have phrased it. What was money, obviously, but your motivations are. There's millions of people here that come to teach, and not everyone decides to publish a series of books or get into company gigs. If you want to just shed some light on that, how you got into it, or
It was mostly what you just saw a gap and decided, you know what, I think I can come up with something that can help.
Cool.
At the say, like for example, where I get into teaching presentations and develop the program how to do presentations was sitting through them.
Yeah.
Over here with engineers.
Yeah.
And brilliant individuals. And I would laugh because they would get up there and they'd be explaining some amazing global changing information, and then the crowd would be 5 minutes into it looking at smartphones for the whole hour presentation. And then just dealing with teaching adults and how can I help question. And the one they always come up with was, I have to stand up and speak in front of people and I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So then I got to work. It took me a year. Luckily I had the same group of guys. I said, guys, give me a year and I'm going to come back with a tool to teach you guys how to do presentations. And then that one kind of took off from there.
It's funny to think, even when I first came here, how I haven't taken any classes or anything, but how over a 12-year career your skills develop, and I mean you turn it into a teachable
learning by doing. It's the easiest way to learn.
Yeah.
I don't remember any grammar structures or anything from being in elementary school, but being here and teaching them, I've taught myself so much, and now I think I'm pretty well versed in that stuff. But I mean, if you ever asked me those questions when I came here, I would have had no idea.
God. It took me, I'd say, 3 years before I realized I was a bad teacher for 3 years. And then it was, the rest of it was just working on my craft.
Yeah,
and as that happened, then that's kind of where the textbooks came from. My wife and I, we were approached. The book rep, every time the book rep would show up to sell us books at the Hog one, she'd complain that she's looking for a particular type that has this topics in there. And I finally said, well, you got some good ideas. Why don't you talk to this publisher? And we pitched him the idea. He liked it, and
nice.
That was that.
I think going back to the public speaking there and the presentations and stuff, I think that's one of the biggest skills now that's sought after, because I was at UNIST for 5 years there, and so many of those students have to go to international conferences if they're in these the KAIST, DGIST, UNIST, whatever, the science and tech unis, and they have to present their data.
Yep.
And they know it. They can do it on their own. They can do it in their dorm, but they just can't stand up there and be effective communicators. And it's so essential for them, if they're going to international conferences, to have that confidence and be able to do that. So I was teaching a presentation course there, and I think for all of these guys now, traveling around, any business, any students that are going international, it's essential for them.
I think a good presenter can be the difference between success and mediocrity. Look at Neil deGrasse Tyson, who he knows all about the planets and the stars or whatever, and he can articulate it for the masses. He can say it in a way that you understand and slightly humorous, and he can keep your attention with really deep, with a really deep subject. So cool.
The taking that public speaking stuff, as Nate alluded to, it's not just speaking in another language. It's being able to deliver in your own language. And that's what I always try to get the point across. The skills you're learning has nothing to do with English.
Yeah.
It has to do with whatever language you speak, to getting up and deliver in a clear, concise manner so that people on the other people understand what you're trying to tell them. Yeah. And now that I work in construction over in Canada, it's the same thing. I'm dealing with engineers who are really, really bright guys, and they may have the newest way to eliminate fossil fuels, but nobody's paying attention to them because they suck at doing presentations.
Yeah, I can't communicate it.
And so I do a lot of training. My first job back in Ottawa was as a trainer.
Yeah. I remember last time I came home, I think you were in that. Yeah.
And my first couple courses, I was thinking, this is a breeze. I have delivered speeches in front of Uchiwan students. 30 of them with no Korean teacher. This is nothing.
Yeah.
Sure. No doubt. Yeah, it's amazing. Same for me now. I mean, through We Hope, we have so many opportunities now in front of city officials or our youth teams or whatever. And I'm so comfortable just from having done it for so long and lecturing at university and I'm any kind of situation. I'm still very, very. Maybe the first 5 seconds is that nervous feeling, and then poof, and it used to be 5 minutes, or you'd be nervous for days before and days after, and now you're still a little nervous before you go in or you start, but then 5 seconds later you're in your zone. So.
I always keep that in mind. Like, if we're doing a We Hope thing, we had probably a couple hundred kids for the special lecture series, and I went up. I was like, we had that moment of realization. Like, I'm almost totally comfortable with going in and having no script, and I'll just kind of. I'll use my PPT and just speak freely, and it's cool, man. How it develops slowly. And
as a teacher over here, you learn to deal with all kinds of situations.
No doubt.
In delivering in front of people,
keeps you on your toes.
And you got to be flexible. It's always changing.
That's right.
Your 20-person audience could turn to 50 in a hurry, like it did for me at the university last week. There, first day of classes, and I was expecting 20 students, and all of a sudden I had 44. And I went, wow, what happened?
Ironically,
joined all the classes.
My job interview to try to get a job at Unist when it first opened, we had to do a presentation. And they wanted me to do a presentation how I'd deliver my classes and my English and my theory and everything. And I know everything about teaching English.
Yeah.
And so I was confident. And I had my PowerPoint ready to go, and I stood up and I began, and I said, "Hi, how you doing? My name is Troy McDonald. I'm from Sydney, Nova Scotia, Canada." And the boss, the CEO, the president of the university puts his hand up and says, "Sydney's not in Canada. Sydney's in Australia." And that was it. I could not recover. I completely bombed it. And now Nate's been working there for 5 years.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And I realized I suck at doing presentations.
That's the difference between Sydney and Thunder Bay.
Yeah, there's no Thunder Bay in Australia that everybody knows about.
Slap the file off the table and just walk out.
Yeah, he destroyed me. One sentence, because now I had to embarrass him.
Oh,
I said, no, there's another one.
Yeah, believe it or not.
And that was it. Couldn't recover. Couldn't do a presentation. And
What? What?
Well, listen, take me back to your earlier days here when you and Sharon were dating. What was it like back then? I mean, I didn't start having a girlfriend or serious dating till probably 10 years after you did. What was it like?
Actually, I've heard
in those days. So long ago.
I know with Jeff, who probably met his wife before you met Sharon. He was saying, I mean, he used to get chirped on the street. He would walk down the street and disgruntled old man would be like,
well, I think we still get that sometimes if it's later at night. If we're out at night on a date or something, there's still people, especially the older generation.
Where's this guy hanging out?
That Samson, that lets you know that. But what about in general back then? What was it like?
So her and I started dating 2001, and so Ulsan was still in its infant stage of dealing with foreigners.
Yeah,
sure. And that was before the World Cup, so didn't even have that yet.
That's correct. So in my opinion, there's two Ulsans. There's Ulsan pre-World Cup and Ulsan post-World Cup.
Yeah.
And so there was, there wasn't a whole lot we had to deal with off and on. We were, very rare would we get chirped on the street or with any problems like that. There wasn't. I don't really have any dramatic stories like that. I know the guys who have been there couple years before myself, they had a hard time, especially if you're talking about dealing with a family dynamic. Everybody went through that back in the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I can imagine.
It seems the attitude has changed a little bit now.
Right? But I think that's a general attitude that it's okay, but once you find out it's your daughter or your son dating the foreigner, then it's back to the old way. So when you ask the Koreans, do you think your daughter or son could marry a foreigner? Oh, sure. But once they show up on the doorstep with the foreigner, then it all changes.
Reality changes for them. Their norm just became different.
No doubt.
They know that their daughter is eventually going to move abroad and take grandchildren with.
My mother-in-law, the initial shock of my wife grew up I'm a nice daughter. I'm the first daughter in the family, and went to school and everything was fine, and always made the parents proud, and then dropped that bomb. I've had a foreign boyfriend for a couple of years that you didn't know about. what? You know, it was quite shocking for the mom. But I mean, for me, it was a smooth transition
Mine was pretty smooth
into
as
the
well.
family, and they're good people.
I think that my in-laws were a little naive in that they thought I was really either her teacher or just her friend or coworker or something.
Still in denial.
And it wasn't until we actually said we're thinking about getting married that they actually realized, oh, maybe you guys are really serious. I thought you were buddies or something. But I remember my father-in-law protesting it, and he wouldn't come to any family dinners or anything that I was going to be at. Mom would come, supportive, the sister supportive, brother supportive, and dad wouldn't come because he completely disagreed with it. And they would phone him we'd be sitting in the restaurant, they'd be phoning, come on, he's a good guy, it's fine. And then I remember the first one he came to, and he said,
arm wrestle me or you can't have my daughter.
no problem. 5'2", 47 kilos. Do you want the whole arm or just the baby finger?
Is that all it would have taken this time?
But he said, where are you going to live the rest of your life? And I just automatically said, Ulsan, and he almost spit his teeth out, knowing that that's probably not true. And then he asked me what kind of car I have and how big my house is. And I said, I don't have a car. I don't need a car. I live next to my work, and public transportation is great. And he was completely dissatisfied with my answers. And I think he protested a few more family functions. And then once we got married, then we became best buddies. And now he loves me.
I was in a pretty different situation. They knew me very well, the whole family, as Troy teacher.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when it came time...
One of those teachers.
What were you teaching?
Grammar, of course. And when it came time to tell the family about me, they weren't surprised. He said, is it Troy? And she said, yeah. And they said, we got to talk. And then it is what it was. Then...
Sure.
They're fantastic, and I felt welcome since day one because they knew me. I was at every family function anyway.
Yeah, I think we have other friends who did the similar way of just, oh, this is my friend, and that's almost
the easiest way to introduce your foreign friend.
I was coached into doing that, but Julia decided to drop the bomb on Mom one time when they were in Seoul. mom and daughter weekend in Seoul. By the way. Ruin the weekend.
I love this sweater, and
and guess what?
Well, we were out on a date at Jinnah, and we were coming back, and she goes, "Oh, that's my house. That's where I live." And I said, "Well, it was Parents' Day," and I said, "Well, it's Parents' Day. Aren't you going to stop in and see your folks?" And she was living at our sister's at the time in the city, and she said, "Well, I said it's Parents' Day. You should probably go in and say hi and give them a hug, tell them you love them." And she said, "Okay." So we did a U-turn, went back. And I said, I'll just wait in the car. Just run in and say hi. I mean, it's the least you can do for Parents' Day. And of course, I already knew that someone's going to come out and tell me to come in. And so I was sitting there at the kitchen table, and mother-in-law was, at that time, her mom was feeding me the traditional homemade alcohol, grape juice or whatever it was. It was very, very strong.
Bokbunja?
And not her name. No, her name is Kumja. But anyways, we were sitting there, and off the kitchen is the bedroom, and Dad was working across the street at the LG plant, and he got up in his underwear, his skimpy little underwear and his undershirt, and he comes out and saw this big foreign guy sitting at his table, and he almost fell over. And he was disgusted. It didn't matter who I was or if I was a teacher or a friend. He just couldn't believe this big guy was sitting at his table in his spot, and he just put his uniform on and boom, scattered out the door, and he was gone. And that was my first interaction with them, because they always say meeting the parents was, a big step. But I met them right at the beginning. Same as you. They just didn't know. So, I think that's pretty common.
Wonderful.
In those days.
I heard a lot of horror stories back in '99 about the similar situation ours, and it had not gone well.
Yeah, there's some. I guess there's more traditional families than some. I like to think mine are pretty open-minded folk, and they like even with language and stuff. The mother-in-law doesn't speak too much, but father-in-law, as the soju level increases, so does the English language. And he honestly puts a good effort in, and he seems genuinely to care about how my family's doing in Canada,
sure,
and in the happiness and health of everyone. So, which is cool. But
so going between here and Canada, then I want to ask you.
Yep.
The difference between living here how often would you be in touch with family back home? And now that you're in, or even your wife being in touch with your family, and the difference between living in Canada and how much are you in touch with your in-laws here? Is that regular? Is it, Skyping once a week or FaceTiming once a week, or is it more random? Or
Well, her parents are a little older than I'm guessing your in-laws are. They're in their
In-laws are
mid-70s.
Oh, okay. Late
And
60s.
they're not very technical savvy at all. So she's in. We have the family group cacao chat.
Yeah.
So that's going constantly.
Good
That sound
pictures
is
and
blowing up
sure.
Yeah.
all hours of the night. And same with you guys and your group
That's
chat.
not a health and safety concern when you're on the job there?
When you when you guys are wide open at 8 p.m. at night and it's 7 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. Boom, 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 boom. So yeah, we keep in contact quite regularly through the Cacao family chat.
Cool. But when people ask me about, how do you live so far away? I'm like, it's not, I don't have to send a letter by horseback to Canada, man. I could just call, have a video.
But it used to be a lot different. I mean,
Yeah, sure
there was
it
no
was.
Facebook when I came, and like
I came with
I think Hotmail was when you came.
There was
Hotmail
email.
must have just started. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you were here in the beginning, were you in touch with your family a lot?
A lot of expensive phone bills.
Yeah.
That first year.
My first one was like $350, but it was I was happy spending it. And I was like, call my buddies. I'm out drinking. It was.
And then I remember when Skype came out, and then I was like, wow, this is really.
It'll never get better than this.
If you get that, we can do it for free, Dad, and then we can call all the time whenever we want. And then you might stop calling me so much. I don't have that much news to tell you.
Yeah, so she'll Skype with her parents.
Yeah.
Call from Canada to her cell phone over here, but the rest is family group chat, and everybody's kept in touch pretty well.
Nice.
So you were here for a total of 13 years.
13 years-ish. Yeah.
That seems like the cutoff. Andy was just saying that he had 12. So transitioning back, what was your motivations for moving back home?
I had enough.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, we have a kid, and I didn't want him going to school over here. For a couple of reasons. One, I'm not a big fan of the pressure that's put on the kids. I want kids to be kids.
Absolutely.
And enjoy childhood. Plus, him being, half and half. We were going to run into some issues. I knew it. Out in Onyang, where we live, a little smaller town, a little smaller area. Everybody in the village already knew who we were. And so we had tested it in the kindergarten level. And no matter what, he was made special, even though he's not. He's just a regular 3 or 4 year old.
And that's special in some good ways and some bad ways.
Exactly. And even the good ways turn into negative when viewed through the viewpoint of parents, other kids, other teachers. So we pulled him out of the first kindergarten. This is nonsense. Like the other parents were complaining because the English teacher would come in, only talk to him because he's the only one who can talk back. And not the foreign English teacher, the Korean English teachers. And she would pull him up and sit him next to her, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just answering because some adult asked him a question. Sure. And that turned into parents complaining that he was getting preferential treatment.
Oh God.
And so we pulled him out of that kindergarten. We said, well,
This sounds a little bit like home, though, no? Preferential treatment, and
he's a little different back there too. But then we tried another one. A brand new one was going to open up. We said, all right, let's try this. But this time the wife took a different approach. She didn't tell them who I was. I didn't go to the initial interview or the meeting. She tried to keep that part secret as possible. And then finally the question came up, filling out the application, what's the husband's job? English teacher. And then they looked at him differently immediately. And then she brought out, we're going to have English festivals and he's going to be the star. And
Your kids are great promotion.
he's not a star. He's 4, and we said, this isn't going to get better. Yeah. And eventually when, he's sitting in a class in grade 6 doing an English test and they're making hundreds. Yeah. For doing nothing special besides he just speaks the language, So there was that element as well. And plus I'd been away for 13 years. I came over at 23. I'm rolling into my mid 30s. Yeah. It was time to go back home.
Oh, that's
if you were going to make a move.
If I was going to make a move, getting any older.
That's where I am now.
Yes.
I came 22.
How old were you when you went back?
33-ish. something like that.
Oh no!
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it sounds like I missed the
How old
boat
am I?
on that one then.
I'm 33 now. I'll be 34.
I don't know.
Oh, dude!
I can't
2
even
weeks.
do math. 35, 36.
Yeah, wild.
Anyway, I knew it was if we were going to make a move, it had to be around then.
So when you say the school and the pressure and stuff, and,
Yep.
and there is, I mean, tons of pressure on the kids here from very young ages. What about comparing it to something at home? I mean, obviously I'm very familiar with hockey, but now these academies, and I send some kids back to play hockey now to a place in Montreal. And what about the pressure on the kids at home? Like when I start researching these hockey academies at home, they're $30,000, $40,000 a year, and they're doing 5, 6, 7 hours of training from 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. What about this pressure on school here? You say like you want them to have a regular childhood, being free. But I think a lot of the kids at home also are not free that get tied into whatever sport or activity.
I think
or whatever
here
it is.
it's more an academic jail, and at home would be a sports.
But is it any more enjoyable when you're forced to get up at 6 a.m. for practice? When your dad's yelling at you on the way home from practice, on the way to practice? Did you do your burpees? Did you do your wrist shot practice? Did you? Is it as enjoyable, or is that mom and dad living their dreams through you, like these parents do with their education?
Well, the big difference there, it's a choice at home. You can choose to put your kid through that level of pressure of hockey.
Yeah, that's a good
You
point.
have to send them to school.
Here, and if you don't, if you don't keeping up with the Kimses.
But you can choose. You can choose if I'm going to be here through some elementary years of schooling for my kids, and I can choose if I want to send them to academies or if I want to pressure them for hundreds. And as much as they might be the outcast for not getting hundreds, I mean, even if they did, they might be it for wearing glasses or being a foreigner or whatever else. No.
The thought process I had, and my wife agrees, who's Korean, when my son shows up and he's making bad marks compared to the rest of the kids in his class, and he's getting whooped on by a teacher,
Right.
because we made that choice not to push pressure on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it's not fair to him.
Yeah,
And he's being sucked into another hole
Yeah.
that he didn't sign up for himself.
Absolutely.
And then when the Hogwin thing starts, if he wants to go out and play with his friends after school, he can't because they're not out playing.
That's the one that I don't like. That there's nobody else to play with because they all go to those.
They all go to the Hogwin. So
Right.
if he wants to have any kind of social network with his friends, he has to go through the Hogwins.
Yeah,
And the kids who are not in Hogwins, you may not want him playing with in the first place, which now I sound like a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So
But now no one has a chance to play outside because of the dust.
So what about
Send your
back,
kids to the Hogwan with the
what about
NFL
back
guy.
home then? I always talk to my brother to try and gain insight on what it's like and what it would be like if I was back. He's got 3 boys, I think grade 9, grade 7, and grade 5 now. And I seem to think, or it seems to be, that they're always inside playing on their devices.
Yeah.
They have hockey sticks, they have nets. I mean, we used to play ball hockey every day after school, and in the winter, Dad had a rink, and Mom would call us in for dinner. I'm sure you were the same. But these days, they don't have the education pressure. Lots of them aren't excelling in sports, so they're just kind of the average kid. Is that how do you see it, or what is it like for your boy? I mean, I would hate for my kid to be sitting on the sofa with their iPad or whatever all night long.
But like I just want to interject in there. Your generation was totally ice hockey and outside playing. I was totally outside and playing, but with the rainy weather or whatever have it, we were inside, and the other time was video games. So I'm maybe in between.
I think
both of those.
I'm definitely older than you, and I'm a little bit older than
I got lots of 40-year-old buddies that love video games. I just never got into them.
So I think it was more maybe to more structure your house. You know what you guys put as priorities,
Yeah.
right, and what you were used to. But you're correct, Nate. It is video games as much as they can, to the point where we got to put rules in the house now.
Yeah.
Because when I read the stuff,
But do
is
you
it
think-
called Fortnite?
Fortnite. Oh yeah, my kid.
Like,
is,
I don't even know what that is. I don't think the kids here play that. I don't know. I haven't heard of that here.
I feel I'm growing into my dad every day.
But-
Turn that shit off.
You are.
But when I see all these, doctors and MDs posting stuff on the effects of Fortnite and the whole country's playing it, or the whole continent's playing it, and I think, oh my God, that's wild, man.
It got to the point where, so my kid plays on a basketball team, and he shows up.
Can't come to practice. Gotta get to the next level.
Well, they can't talk about anything in practice but getting to the next level.
Jeez.
And part of the reason, like, can't say we're strict parents, but we do have the power to, and we will keep video games from him.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I finally had to relinquish a little bit of that just so he could have conversations with his friends.
Jeez, wow, that's wild, eh?
Yes, it is wild.
But I mean,
I guess it was same with us. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, playing Mario Kart, like we went into, I played for hours, man, and I don't think it really destroyed me.
Well,
I used to play
Except my right.
I used to play Minesweeper
subjective,
at 2 a.m. and not try and hit those bombs in the Minesweeper game. That was the only one on the computer. That's all we ever had.
I'd probably be a doctor if it wasn't for Tecmo Super Bowl.
Oh, dude. Yeah. No, but I mean, yeah, when Nintendo 64 came out, it was either Mario Kart. You guys, you're looking at me like I got three eyes.
I know it.
Mario Kart, GoldenEye 007,
Yes.
or Zelda Ocarina of Time. Dude, that was 2 years of my life.
I just got my hands on, thanks to a good buddy of mine, a little shout out to my buddy Tony, just sent me some kind of game emulator. It's got every Nintendo game and Nintendo 64 game on it.
I got it on the computer. Though,
I just started playing Tecmo Super Bowl again. My career's over.
Wife sent the divorce papers.
Yeah, exactly. My career is over. But
So-
no, back to what you're saying, Nate. Yeah, it is pretty bad over there. Video games are, it's wild, man. Like,
And that's the one thing, not video games in particular, but that kind of life. And I think here, if they're in school, I mean, they're out of the riffraff. There's not as many stresses and worrying about the drugs, sex, partying, pills, overdoses, addictions.
But if you're playing video games, there's not that much. There's probably less stress.
so
Sure, definitely less stress, but I think it's easier to lose your path or get off track or whatever. But that's what I wonder. What is the plus and minus, or what?
But I don't
risk
think,
and reward.
I don't think being
both places.
force fed, like foie gras style, being force fed math and science and
No,
in
but those
English
are
education
optional.
is the
You can choose Taekwondo, piano, Paduk, and something else if you want. You don't have to.
but like you said, like Troy just mentioned, that if I don't think it's all or nothing, but if your kid probably isn't in the math and science, they're gonna fall back. They might fall back in school, and from what I hear, I can't believe this is true, but a lot of people tell me that if there'll be questions or concepts on a math test that the teacher won't teach in school, that they just expect that you're going to learn
over
that
here.
Yeah,
Oh, for God, yes, for sure.
that can't be real.
No, man. The kids go to school already learning everything they're in from the hog one
That's
that they were
just
going
a
to learn.
review, right? Yeah.
It's a review of what they learn in school.
So the teacher can test a kid on a concept they haven't taught, assuming that they've been to a hog one.
That's right.
That's insane.
There's a general level of knowledge from the hog one, but when every kid goes to the hog one, sure, you can do that.
My kids.
So then my question then for back home.
Yep.
Here, I would think if my child is not at the standard level of math, that I should work with her and I should help her.
Correct.
Because there's no grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 math that I can't do. I don't have to send her to an academy. I could just sit down with her at night and work it with her.
Which we
But
do.
that's a
At-
luxury. That's a
so-
luxury you have. That most
So
parents
at
don't.
home, is that still common that now with double income families and mom and dad working, coming home late, do parents in general still sit down and help with their kids, or they're losing track and they're falling behind? Well, whatever. That's what happens.
Well, I had some real issues, and boys, you're going to experience this when you go home too, when your kids enter the school system, is how much the school now says back home, we want you to work at that at home. We want you to work on that at home. Well, my kid, can you at least print me off a couple more worksheets at the door? Just so I can practice
I have
with
some
them?
teacher friends, and they say, like, we can do all this stuff in school, but there's so many more issues to deal with on day-to-day teaching now, and they wear so many caps that, yeah, the parents have to do a lot of heavy lifting at home.
Which I don't mind doing. I like working with them and
Right.
stuff like that. So, yeah, we do a lot of that at home. I'm pretty, the wife is pretty non-traditional when it comes to that kind of, with the education stuff, and they got to be filled with activities every single day, right? So he goes to his basketball and swimming, and that's pretty much it.
Cool.
The rest of it is, try to get him to do some studying,
Yeah.
and play.
But I always look at there's that one picture of all the animals lined up. It said if we judge everyone by their ability to climb a tree. Have you seen that? And there's the fish that's kind of hanging out there, and he doesn't know. And I don't think education or sitting down and studying 8 hours a day is for everyone.
No, it's
and
not.
I think, and I mean, what's wrong if you had whatever, I don't want to say mediocre job, but not a scientist or a lawyer or a doctor. Well, why can't you be happy being a store clerk if you had a sweet hobby after, then if you really love basketball, you couldn't make it to the show, but who's to say that's not a happy life or a successful life?
Get in the trades and make real money.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, I think that's the attractive part of home is that still, whatever you want to be, you can pursue that and be encouraged to pursue it.
I got a buddy
Where here, there's still a lot of false hope of my kid's going to be a doctor, dentist, lawyer from Seoul, Yonsei, and Korea. But the times have changed, man. There's not that many jobs anymore for those guys.
Get into SK, Hyundai, and that's it. You're set for the rest of your life.
That's why I like the new generation now, because the parents might still think that, but the kids definitely do not. And they have their own things in mind. And if that's a YouTube vlogger or whatever.
But that's the irony, too. I had a student whose parents, pushed him lots academically. And the funny thing is, like, he got rejected. It's not funny that he got rejected from the schools, but his parents are spending half of their salary to educate this kid, and who's making money? He's watching this guy, this YouTuber, eat food. He puts on a black glove and he eats it really sexually. It's the funniest, it's the weirdest, funniest thing. But dude,
you can make money doing that?
Yeah,
what am I doing?
No, listen, I swear to God, the one he showed me, he's like, teacher,
wrong generation.
Teacher, look at this. This is hilarious. And I watch it, I'm like, this is just a weird guy eating salmon and doing it watch me eat the salmon. But this guy's making huge cash out. He's getting millions of hits. And the irony is half of the people are stuck in Hagwons trying to get the SK, trying to get the Hyundai job, and it's not even worth it.
Salmon with a black glove.
Oh, dude, he's dipping it in sauce and everything. It was
a lot of those jobs aren't going to be around in 10, 20 years. The ones that they're studying for.
When my kid was 6 or 7, he tried to set up his own YouTube channel of him playing Mario Kart.
Dude.
He should have kept going. He'd have a couple million followers by now.
But look at the toy review kid. He was making $20 million a year. Kid's 6 years. That's his parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Setting it up, and that's unreal.
So once you move back to the East Coast.
Yep.
Now you're based in Ottawa.
Yep.
I'm curious. When we said, I think I'm from Thunder Bay, not a big center by any means, but I think that a lot of our friends enjoyed outdoors because we were from a northern community, and that's what we did compared to maybe city kids. So compare for me the difference living or moving back to the East Coast and now being in Ottawa. What are the similarities? What are the differences? What do you like?
So going back to the East Coast, it was a bit of a reverse culture shock for me. Kids aren't playing outside like they used to.
Right.
And why can't my kid just, go on the street and there's 15 other kids all playing ball hockey? Right. That doesn't exist. You have to set up play dates now.
What, in back east?
Back east, yeah. So, and which is exactly the same as in Ottawa.
Okay.
Right. So I thought it would be the East Coast that I grew up in.
Yeah.
Cape Breton Island that I come from, the small little place that.
I think I still hold on to that Saskatchewan and the small towns or whatever. Maybe they're still more connected to the outdoors and playing outside. But yeah, it seems like there's no difference anymore.
It has to be organized for them now.
What happened to picking up your stick and going to? I remember taking slap shots with rocks. Oh man, those are the best.
See, Hogwins aren't that bad.
Oh, dude.
So
that's sad.
Going from the East Coast then up to Ottawa, it's that part isn't really different. There's just a lot more activities for them to do. And that's just based on where I come from. In the East Coast. So there's not a whole lot of a difference between that with regards to the kids. There's just a lot more for them to do in Ottawa. So which is nice.
Cool.
And there's a lot more kids on the streets, just big population difference. So you're going to experience that going back.
And when I think if I was ever to move back, I think that Thunder Bay and Winnipeg's bigger, but I don't think I would consider either of them. Winnipeg is way too cold. I'm just not cut out for that anymore.
Global warming.
And Thunder Bay is quite small, so I think I'd be going back to somewhere more central. But you decided to make the move to the East Coast, which is also very isolated in terms of the big cities and stuff, much like Thunder Bay is for me. Why the East Coast and why moving to Ottawa after?
So question number one, why the East Coast? Because I'm from there. And the whole point was, all right, I'm not going to be living in Korea next to her family. We better be in Canada living next to my family.
That's my wife said that too. If we moved back to Canada, it would be.
You come from Niagara Falls, a little bit different.
No.
I was going to say I could go back to Thunder Bay and try it, but I don't think we'd be able to cut it there.
Yeah.
So going back to Cape Breton, that was the plan, right? Same cliff I grew up on was the same cliff he was going to grow up on.
Yeah.
It's not the same place. It was. There's no more kids around where I grew up. So in the city where we did live, there, he went to elementary school and there was lots of kids, but it was just different. So anyway, and plus there's no work. So to answer question number 2, it comes from not being able to sustain us. And I expected when I moved back, and this might be one of your questions coming up, what do you expect work-wise? I expected a parade. I expect, when people back home knew about the shit I did in Korea, like the bar owning and the book publishing and this and this and this, they'd just be thrown open the door saying, we have to hire this guy at a high salary. But all I realized very quickly is that I got paid to speak my native tongue for the last 13 years.
Right.
That's the way they looked at it.
No doubt.
And nobody could really comprehend what we actually do over here.
Right.
And it wasn't conducive to slap on a resume and try to get a job back home. And so I was able to get jobs to keep us going, but we knew it just wasn't going to sustain us. So I went back to school, got retrained, and ironically, the biggest health and safety training school east of Ottawa is in my hometown where there's no construction. It was a breeding ground for Alberta, what this college is, and I wasn't going to go back out there. So Ottawa had a bit of a support system in place for us because, as you guys know, we have a lot of friends who grew up or who in their early adulthood from Ulsan with Korean wives, with Korean kids.
I think Heo was saying there's like 12 families there.
Yeah, there's a lot of us. Right? There's 5 of them that we all kind of grew up here in Ulsan together with.
Right. I was going to say not just random guys that we've all known
good
for
friends.
years.
So our kids grew up together here. They played together. They all speak the same. So that was why we chose Ottawa. The other thing was I looked down my kid's future in 10 years, and when he graduates high school, he's going to be in the boat of so many other Cape Breton kids and have to leave.
Yeah.
Right. So I figure in the capital city, he's got a legit shot that he finishes school and can stay. If he chose to.
That's much like Thunder Bay. I mean, once we finished, I moved for hockey, but all of my friends that went to high school there, most of them went away for university, and most of them have not gone back. Yeah. And that's a reality of being from that small town or small city. So.
And Ottawa's treated us very well. We're very happy we're there. We got all our friends, and plus me being from Cape Bretoners everywhere in Canada. So it was a matter of calling my buddies up and saying, I need a place to crash until I find a job, and that was it.
Nice.
What kind of advice would you give guys who are considering moving back from anywhere, not just from Korea, but from anywhere who are considering moving back? Do you think that re-education is mandatory, necessary, recommended, or
should you do it here and then go home, or should you go home?
Depends on your skills, but or what
really figure out what you want to get into and then start laying the groundwork now.
Right.
The other thing now, what you guys are everybody's over here for a little while now. You've established yourselves.
We got this Crusher podcast.
We got this. This is obviously going to let you retire from teaching. So try to get yourself a second style of income to help out with, which I'm pretty sure both of you guys have already accomplished that. So
lots of volunteer jobs.
So that helped us out a lot in the early years. Yeah. Once we went over there, but start laying the groundwork right now. What you guys want to do. Yeah. And whether it's online training or, well, I guess it'll only be online at this point for you, but start doing that immediately.
Cool. That's sound advice.
Because it is different.
Right.
No doubt.
And I got a rude awakening when I got back.
Yeah, no one cares about ESL teacher.
None.
I mean, I
even applied for ESL jobs and couldn't get them.
Yeah, 13 years.
Not enough.
That's funny. I think this would be a good time for to take a short break and jump into our first segment called Stories from the Sauna. We in our first episode we talked to Roy Garcia, and he hadn't had exactly a sauna experience, but he had a really funny the hospital story to tell. But what about Troy? You in Korea? Did you ever experience a sauna? Did you ever? Do you have any funny stories or anecdotes to share with the audience?
Not really a sauna, but my first couple weeks in Korea, I went and joined a gym at a club. And I would go early in the morning and like 6:30, 7 o'clock, as soon as the doors opened. And there's always one other girl in there working out at the same time. And I couldn't read Korean, nam and yo, on the locker room doors. And probably, I don't know, my second or third time there, I decided to go into locker rooms, and I walked in the wrong one, and there she was getting changed.
Oh, nice.
And I quit the gym.
Yeah.
That's why I look like I do today.
Oh, dude.
There was no symbols back then. It was just the namyo.
On that particular gym, on that particular door, and I walked in the wrong one.
That's funny. There's a whole Facebook group dedicated to
people like me.
I think it's called Rage Squats in Korea, and there's some funny posts on there with just very strange exercises or people using the machines very strangely. It's quite funny. Check it out.
So I've never done the whole Jim Jilbong experience.
Oh, Jim Jilbong's just
Or
like
saunas.
hanging out with your clothes on.
Nothing that I can really pull the story from.
What about your old polar bear swim?
Oh, the May 13th swim. Yes, that became a bit of a tradition.
How did that start?
Back home, beginning of lobster season, we would, as soon as the traps went out, you'd see 3 or 4 12-year-olds jumping on inner tubes and heading out towards the traps.
Jeez.
And it was freezing.
No, it don't.
There was ice still in the harbor at times.
Like Korean freezing or?
No, it was North Atlantic freezing.
Korean chua?
I laugh when they do the polar bear swim here, and it's. I mean, they
7.
said Superior is like 95% frozen this year. That's where we would do polar bear swims in Lake Superior. I mean, this is a lot different here.
So anyway, my first year in Korea, we were well intoxicated on a Saturday night in Mugadong here, the establishment we're all familiar with. And it was I didn't really know my good friend Mark that well.
Yeah.
But I looked at the calendar and said, oh my God, it's May 13th. I have got to get to the ocean.
Yeah.
I didn't even know
Because
how to get
that's lobster starting season is May 13th?
back home, yeah. So anyway, the tradition kept going. We weren't even going out there messing around trying to catch lobsters or anything. It was just I just kept the tradition up for an excuse to get drunk and go do something. Okay. So anyway, the May 13th kind of took on its life of its own over here. And we kept it up year after year after year after Mark had made me missed it for the first time because he was too drunk to drive me to the beach. Yeah. And I don't think I ever forgave him for that. That was the first time I had missed it since I was a kid. And so that kept up for the 13 years I was here.
Nice.
And then much to the chagrin of my wife, who just can't seem to understand jumping into cold water in the middle of May. And then I kept it up when I moved back home for a couple of years. And now that I moved to Ontario, I don't really do it anymore because there had to be a connection to the ocean, the salt water, the whole thing. So I let it go.
Yeah.
So Connor's never going to experience the.
Oh, he will. He will.
The polar bear.
Throw him in a cold bathtub. It's May 13th, son.
You don't know why this is happening, but
Dad, a simple explanation.
Yeah, so that became fun. We go to Ilsan Beach, and we'd have a big crew of people and supporting the local bars out there. Bunch of foreigners in bathing suits.
Very nice.
Yep.
Now they have a pretty big one in Haeundae.
Okay.
Or Gwangan in Busan.
What time
There's
of
an
year?
official midwinter, whatever it is.
Yeah, okay.
There's an official.
I think it's May 12th. It is totally.
There's an official one there, but I notice when I'm at the beaches, even here in the winter, that they have the swimming clubs now. They wear their wetsuits and they
okay.
So lots of them are well trained, and the water doesn't affect them that much.
I remember back at home, or back when I arrived, July 21st was the beginning of swim season or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like swim season began, and I would tell my
students, when the water reaches 80.
Oh, teacher, what you doing the weekend? I went swimming. What? It's not swim season.
Yeah, about the same. It's 24 degrees in March, and people are like, oh, you're wearing shorts. Like, it's
I got it
24.
yesterday with a short sleeve shirt on,
yeah.
And they said 16, 17 degrees. How come you're wearing your Everest climbing jacket? Because they didn't tell me winter's over yet. So
that's funny.
Yeah, some of those things still kicking.
No doubt. Wonderful. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about Connor and how he sees going back and forth between the two countries and what does he ask a lot of questions at home about Korea? How connected is he? How much does it play?
How old was he when he moved?
4, turn of 5.
Does he have any memory of Korea? That's
Tons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dad throwing me in the ocean. That
happened like a couple summers ago back home. Get in there. I know it's not a pool, but this is where you're from, kid. Yeah. Jump off that rock. Yeah, so with Connor going back and forth, he's back and forth every year, and at one point he was coming back twice a year.
Really?
Just due to the wife's visa situation. She had to get in and out every 6 months.
Right.
So we had an expensive little hobby of sending her back to Korea.
Yeah.
And so he's never been away very long to really lose any association or connection to Korea.
Cool.
And that's nice.
I think that's important too, to keep their, that's something special that I tell my kid too. Or I mean, he's at the age, he's 5 now, well, Western 5. That he's starting to ask, like, why don't kids in my class speak English? Why do we speak Korean all the time? When I speak to them, they don't know. Or when they're having English class, like you said, he's the only one that knows what's going on. And I said, well, you're special, man. And luckily in his class too, there's a half Japanese kid and half Vietnamese kid. So there's 3. There's
he's not that special.
Yeah, basically.
But I think it's good for them and for us to teach them that they should see that as a positive thing, that they have a multicultural background, and that it's a good thing, even if it is looked down in some ways, that they have more open doors and they're going to have more opportunities, and that they should embrace being both. And I know I try and teach or give as much Canadian culture as I can to my kids.
Eat your poutine.
Here's your hockey stick.
11 p.m.
And,
eat it.
My Gina started playing hockey now, and I think that's awesome. And she can FaceTime with her cousin back home, and they send videos of each other who's skating faster. And
okay.
So I think if we were in Canada, definitely I would want her connected to her cousins here, and keeping that connection and alive and well in her brain.
I think one of the benefits we have living in Ottawa, and I'm going to keep trying to sell Ottawa to Nate here, because we have that network of us in that city. Yeah. They're never not surrounded by Korea. Right?
Yeah, they always have.
It's just by geography.
Yeah,
they got we have Chuseok, we have Sola at each other's homes, and
kimchi and homemade and all that stuff still around.
The kids are speaking Korean or in English to each other.
When I came home last time, the wife, I mean, we drove up and visited. It took, how long did it take us to get there? It took me, I think, maybe 16 hours to drive from Niagara to Ottawa, which should be like an 8 hour. You don't remember?
7.5 hour, 8 hour drive.
Did you go to New York for
no. It's on the way there. Tony got there. No, actually, we stopped. It was actually from Toronto to Ottawa. It took about 12 or 13 hours, which is insane. But I was sick in the morning, and then Tony got sick and he puked all over his car seat. We had to stop and clean everything out. But anyways, we finally made it there, and the wife was so impressed. She's like, "Wow, look at." Man, this is awesome. Troy's here, and we're at Mikey's house, and Eric, and I said, I don't know, like, if that was a
staged event.
Not a staged event, but going home, is it? I mean, with work schedules and whatnot, is it easy to meet? I mean, here in Korea, everyone just meets, or in Ulsan, everyone just meets in Samsan. Is it easy to meet? Is it easy to meet back home? Is it easy to? I mean, like,
wherever we're
on a Wednesday, like, oh yeah, let's go to the bar. I mean, maybe it's different with kids. I guess that would be the.
We don't go to the bars, so
it's all about geography and back home.
Yeah.
Taxis are ridiculously expensive.
Sure.
Uber exists now, so that makes it a little easier. But
Speedies.
We live
Speedies.
For us. It all depends where if you live close. Other than that, you got to plan things out.
Yeah, it's hard,
because you got rush hours and work schedules. And it's regular life now.
Yeah.
Right. If I don't see some of our buddies for 3 weeks, that's normal.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. But I get
Is there a conscious effort throughout maybe the summer or the warmer months that camping or barbecues?
Yes, for sure.
Definitely. Cool.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, going home, especially for me, like my friends from growing up in Thunder Bay, they're all over the country, and my brothers and sisters are all over the country. So I think I don't have real friends anywhere, really. They're all kind of one guy here, one guy there.
We
So
don't like them either.
I think having that base there of guys that we spent so long here with, it must be comforting, especially moving from the East Coast, not knowing anybody else. At least you have that comfort zone of knowing those guys.
I just didn't want to set up, if we ever did move to Ottawa, I wouldn't want her to think like, oh, every Wednesday and Thursday, Troy's going to be here.
Girls' night.
And girls' night on Friday. Like, I didn't want her to think that every day is
Kim Jong is every year.
Yeah. That's what I had imagined every 3 weeks, once a month, you guys get together, have some beer, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And I think even doing a Kim Jong every year, I think would be cool to keep that tradition and show the kids. And I think that'd be awesome. But to have that opportunity, you have a group of friends that are exactly like you. Yeah. They're multicultural background. They're half Korean, and I think that's amazing. To be in Canada and have that connection would be fantastic.
Kim Jong's got to change a little bit. You need some tunes. You need a little alcohol while you're doing it.
Hey, man.
Just enjoy it a little more.
Fusion.
Put the hockey game in the back, and
why not? What's wrong with that?
Let's Canadian this thing up. Some tragically hip.
Pour some maple syrup on that.
We'll substitute the kimchi for the moose meat.
There we go.
We'll have our wives making moose sausage.
Put some tragically hip on, and we'll poutine on the side. And
more savory. Sure. More savory in the kimchi sauce.
But I think that's one of the great benefits we gain from being in multicultural relationships, that we can do that. We can mix that. And I find that really kind of exciting, as opposed to just being a Canadian couple with, very similar backgrounds. I enjoy being part of a multicultural relationship where we have those opportunities.
The amazing thing about the kids is that they don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the beautiful part. They're not. It's just normal for them.
Yeah.
Right. They show up at their friend's house, and there will be kimchi and pizza on that. Right?
Pickles or no pickles?
No pickles. There will.
Dad, how come there's not corn on my pizza?
That's where we separate the cultures.
Okay, you guys want corn over there. You guys sit in the basement.
There's a part of your heritage, son, that I will not let you connect to.
That's right. Draw the line.
But it's the norm for the kids. Right. It's not being taught to them in any way. We're not going out of our way to keep this stuff going with them. We're just fortunate where we're at. Who we're with, it's just awesome. It's normal. They go to the house and you'll hear the kids flipping between languages without thinking about it.
Yeah,
getting yelled at in both languages.
That was really weird for me the first time. I mean, like just overhearing my son talking to his grandparents in Korean, and just like, where did that come from? Who taught you that?
I've been in this country longer than you.
Yeah,
and the code switching, back and forth between them is
right. We were at a block cafe the other day. And the lady said, asked me in Korean, like, do you have a membership here? And he looked at me and he's like, loosely translated, like, have you been here before? I was like, dude, I know what she's saying. Yeah. Stop trying to upstage your old man.
My kid mocks me too.
What's that?
My kid used to mock me too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, right in the grocery stores.
안녕하세요, Dad. Hey, 안녕하세요.
But I like random stuff, like go to the in-laws and Dad will say, hey, how you doing? And she goes, Daddy, Grandpa asked you how you're doing. And you're like, oh, thank you for translating that.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah,
and sometimes they go just between me and my wife and my eldest daughter, and she's only 6, but she says, Daddy, Mommy said this. And I tell her something, okay, Mommy, Daddy said this. And I think it's so cute, and it's funny, but it's amazing to watch them just switch back and forth.
100% bilingual, naturally. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's cool.
One more maybe before we get into the other segment. You said your wife and Connor would come back regularly.
Yep.
I haven't been on a solo vacation with my kids yet, and my wife's been to Europe, I think, for 10 days or something, but that was before we had kids. So what is it like? Sometimes, I think I'd die to have a couple days alone, with no wife and no kids, just to relax and watch a hockey game or something. Or
do you know what I had to do to get these 2 hours of this afternoon?
So what is it like? Because as we mentioned, like lots of our friends' wives come back with the kids, and I wonder, are the guys at home just in heaven, just relaxing, and oh my God, or are they ordering pizza every night and Netflix binging, or what is that like? And being away from the kid for so long.
So it came to me in stages, knowing this was going to continue to happen. The first time it was like, oh my God, like this, come back, right? Yeah. And then every friend and family member and every dude I know back home is saying, that is awesome. I wish I had your life.
But that's what I wonder.
And so the first, then as you get used to it, and then for the first couple of weeks it was tough, and then it was the first week it was tough, and Now it's like, all right, she's on that plane. All right, Avengers, assemble. It's on. And I'm putting the request out via text message that there is a party tonight. But then, if, while they're gone, and suddenly you do have all kinds of free time. And you only connect with them, and with the time zones and work schedules, you'll go 2 or 3 days without talking sometimes. That's the way I operate anyway. Other families may be a little bit different. And it's tough, because the kids, wife and kid are gone. But you know what? I get a lot more done at the house when they're not in it. And I'm a workaholic, as you guys know from my past here. So I continue to work.
Yeah, and it must create a greater appreciation of having them back and what you miss, because we always say
emptiness makes the heart grow fonder.
Right.
What is it?
Something like that. But
you can get there, buddy.
What's the absence? What I say, emptiness?
I think you said that. What's that liquor? Absinthe?
Absinthe makes my brain go dumber.
But yeah, I think, being away, I didn't realize, how much I appreciated my time with my family when I live in the same house every day growing up.
Yep.
But now living abroad, when I go back, it's quality over quantity. And I get to see them, and it's very quality time, whether it be 2 days or 2 weeks. That's worth more than me seeing them every day for 6 months and just taking it for granted. Mm-hmm. So you must develop that also once they leave, and you realize how much you miss
the longest stint I think they've gone is maybe 2-3 months. Right, that's the longest that we've been apart. Yeah. And but yeah, when you're back together again, it's maybe that's why we get along so well. Yeah. Right.
I think it works. I think it works in your favor doing that.
I agree. Yeah, getting. Any sort of separation. I mean, if you're seeing each other day after day, it's routine. Well, like you said, you fall into the same patterns, but that separation, man, you come back, it's like a new spark, or you got new things to talk about.
Do you think at this stage, if you were back here living and not with any visa issues or whatever, do you think you would scoot back home with just Connor by yourself for a month at a time, or is that due to situations? Or
fine. If I was financially capable, we'd do that.
Yeah, that's.
I always want.
I'd be curious to see how Sharon, my wife, would take that.
Right, that's what I want. My wife might say, "Go, don't stay an extra week, no problem." But I think the same thing. As much as she might encourage us to go, after a couple of days, it'd be, "When you're coming for 3 weeks? I want to see the girls. Please bring them back."
I think she'd be a blubbering mess.
Right, and that's what I think too.
Because they've never been apart.
Right.
Well, wait till
and that's why I wonder if it goes both ways.
Yeah.
If it goes both ways, now we know Mark is a common friend, and he goes back with the kids sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I wonder what is the limit, or I think I would definitely start maybe a week or 10 days, because I think she wouldn't be able to handle it.
Well, it's a lead up to. I know obviously lots of parents experience the empty nest syndrome when their kids leave for school or whatnot, and maybe it's just like a little warm up to that. Maybe it's a good thing. But
after the 8th day in a row, chicken wings for breakfast and craft dinner, she's got to come back. Yeah.
You message all those guys and say, "Guys, come on, it's not that good."
That's fine.
That's I think ideally the weekend alone or whatever would be great. But more than that, I take care of my girls a lot, and I think I would really miss them. I would have a hard time seeing my wife go for a month or 2 months. I'd be come on, I miss my whole connection to the kids every morning, every afternoon.
It's surprisingly hard on the kid.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
He's upset every time he goes, and he was counting the days till I came over here to see him again.
Cool.
And now that's kind of a nice feeling.
So. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay,
no.
Introduce segment 2 there.
When I picture being home alone, I picture sliding in. What movie is that?
Ferris Bueller. No, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Slides in on the air guitar in his undies.
Tom Cruise. The right stuff, the right moves, all the right moves. What is it?
Maybe that's it.
I can't remember.
Maybe that's it. All right, let's move in here to our second.
We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, second and final segment. We like to talk about Korean history, and we'll give you a did you know, and then we can discuss it as much or as little as we choose. So basically, in the 1700s, the king had a problem with his son. His name is Prince Sado. He was going around the king's the king's land, and I don't know how to say, he was killing some of the servants, sexually promiscuous. But since he was royal blood, the king couldn't execute him. Obviously, he would be next in line. to take his father's throne. So the dad gave him two choices. He could do the honorable thing and commit suicide, or take, his second option. The son chose the latter. So his dad had decided to lock him in a rice box on the grounds of Changgeung Palace? Changgeung? Oh God, I butchered that.
You're not getting any help from over here.
Oh no. I really should have tried that one.
You should have wrote it in Korean.
Cheongyeongung. Oh my God, I've been there. Anyways, he died from starvation after 8 days. Anyways, Sado's son ended up becoming King Jeongdo, who's considered one of the greatest kings in Korean history. He did lots of great things for his people and also built Hwasong Fortress in Suwon. In fact, if you visit Hwasong there, you can see replicas of the rice box and take a selfie in front of it.
If you've been there, you recall, can you give me some context on the rice box? I only think of cereal box, and from rice, I mean, my in-laws have the rice patties, but it's got nothing to do with a box. We put the rice in bags. What is a rice box?
I think it would be the wooden box. Actually, I think it might be similar to. Have you been to what's the name of the Korean Independence Museum? Have you been there? No, they have the Japanese, or the Japanese, when they tortured some of the Korean soldiers, they would put them in a box and have like spikes in it, just kick the box. But I think it was just basically a wooden box that they put them in. I haven't taken my selfie in front of it.
I always thought they would keep that stored in those ongi pots.
Rice?
Ongi?
Yeah. The old rice and the ongi. But I thought maybe it's like a cold storage or a storage kind of type thing. I mean, it's got to be big enough for a person, so
thermos.
I just can't picture what the rice box is. But
I think it's a wooden box that he buried in.
What does that make you think of when you hear of?
No. I think the topic to explore here is punishment in Korea, or I mean punishment from like what do you say, top down punishment in Korea, and how even since I've been here, how it's changed. The first hogwarn I worked at, within the first few days I was working, I came out of my class and there was kids in a handstand position and a teacher just crushing them with a meter stick. I was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, they got like 8 wrong on their vocabulary test. I couldn't, coming from Canada, we've seen kids flip out on teachers.
That's the stories our
teachers.
Grandparents told us.
Yeah.
With or nuns. Getting the strap, yeah.
I remember one of my first times was coming up the stairs, and right at the top of the stairs, the door opened, and then there was 6 kids on their knees with their hands up. And I thought, what's going on here? And I said, they were running in the halls. And I said, so how long do they have to stay like this?
Until next Wednesday.
I was like, wow.
That's easy punishment.
This is serious. Yeah, and then I learned. Then I was exposed to all the rest of them. But what were some of the wild ones you've seen?
I think you guys can check with your wives on this one, or your Korean co-teachers. They call it the love stick. That's what I heard. The stick that they whack the kids with.
My wife calls that something else.
The one in Nate's top drawer.
But they would call it the love stick because they were using it to discipline them and make them better. And we only hit you because we love you kind of excuse. Oh yeah, that's what I heard at the beginning.
Wow. This is even from education that spilled over into sports as well. And the one one of the skaters. No. She was a speaker.
Recently, it's become a big thing.
Okay.
Sukhi, maybe. I can't remember her. I can't remember. What is it?
Don't butcher another one.
Yeah. I'll spare her the.
Miss Kim.
Mrs. Kim. Anyways, she publicly outed her trainer for physically abusing her or using the motivation stick, if you want to do that, but if you want to call it that. But I don't know, if you want to play devil's advocate, you can say, she's won several gold medals and silvers, and she's done quite well in the Olympics. Would it be offside to say, without her motivation stick, would she have achieved the same? Would she have achieved the same? The same results? It's a tough position to argue, but
too many variables.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Now I've had some. You guys have all probably had students in your class at one point that don't go to regular classes. They're athletes at school.
Oh, sure.
right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And by the way, listeners, I keep doing air quotes like you can see me.
Yeah.
But these kids are student athletes or athlete students.
Okay.
And they don't go to regular classes. They show up to do their tests.
Yeah.
And they would continuously be abused by their coaches.
Not that it doesn't happen at home,
But I remember some private lessons, and I would ask the kid how he was. He said, not a good day or whatever. He said, why? My teacher hit me, and he'd show me bruises up and down his arm or his legs. And I remember when it started to change, the culture started to change, and it went from being wide open on the hands with bleeding marks on their hands to now it was on the top of the tricep where they couldn't see. The parents couldn't see because it was under the arm sleeve. And then it went from there, it migrated to the bottom of the foot. So you'd take your sock off and they beat the bottom of your feet.
Oh,
and
my family did that before.
So it just kept being, how can we do this where the parents wouldn't see it or nobody would think there's something wrong with the kid. So yeah, I've seen the evolution of 15 years.
How about your own evolution from the time you jumped off the plane, saw it the first time coming up the stairs and the horrific thoughts you had to now?
Right hooks have changed into pats on the back.
When I see, I mean,
in class with your own teaching.
I don't think the kids here are extremely well disciplined and behaved, but I also know at home that there's a lot of discipline issues. There's a lot of talking back, a lot of, disrespect for elders and people like teachers or grandparents. And I wonder if maybe it shouldn't be a little bit stricter at home. I don't mean beating the kids, but it seems like there's a major lack of discipline and respect at home.
That was shocking for me at first when I know growing up at home, if a teacher says jump, you say how high, and you kind of stay within their rules, or it's just common respect. But when I came here, it was insane, man. Kids were running around, just complete disregard for any authority, and that as a young 22-year-old, I think my first reaction was just yell as loud as you can and try and get them to sit down. But obviously that doesn't work.
I used to just.
Over 12 years, I don't know. Maybe my skills got better, or I've learned how to.
Korean got better.
Korean definitely does help, but I think just being able to control kids or knowing how to talk to them, or probably just teaching skill is increased. Which
I used to isolate them and just take whoever the problem is and isolate them, move their desk to the side. But they must have thought that was a joke because they didn't have to carry the books on their head or the chair over their head or put their arms up or the motorcycle or the chicken walk. It was always about the embarrassment. But I could just simply move a guy to the side and then he was out of the equation. He didn't cause any problems anymore. So I don't think I was ever very extremely strict, but I used to like that you could look at a kid and say, hey, and they'd go, oh, okay. Yeah. At home, I don't think they have that fear anymore. That, so what? You're the teacher. Who are you? I don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems that way.
But why? I don't know. Shouldn't a kid just be? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. They say,
do they have to be scared of the teacher? No, they shouldn't be scared of the teacher. But you should also follow the rules.
The teacher should command respect through their skill or whatnot. But
bad kids are going to be bad kids regardless what side of the ocean they're on.
Sure.
And one thing I realized about the kids that would get whacked by teachers over here, they'd be bad the next day.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure,
and then you'd have one kid who did something wrong and got hit, and then he would be fine the next day.
Yeah.
One thing, and the kids taught me this, the pain stops quickly. And they continue doing what they're doing wrong.
Right.
So, and a lot of it is different learning styles, and whatever method you're using is not conducive to their learning style.
So did it start to not bother you guys as much as the years progressed over here?
Well, I think it got less and less and less. I remember even in public school, maybe 2009 or 10, I remember seeing, for some reason, the grade 6 teachers were usually men. And I don't know if that's because the grade 6 kids seem to be the worst behaved. But I still used to see them hit guys in the head, and that really bothered me. And I would ask them about it, and I would say, is that necessary? There's other ways to deal with this. But I mean, getting out of the private schools, I think you miss a lot of that. You don't see that stuff as much. I'm sure it still goes on, but I'm not in that area, so I don't see it. But parents are paying big bucks to see results in a lot of these cases, and the teachers are very, very strict. I'm coaching a kids hockey team now at the college, and I remember when one of the teams came to play, and we were volunteer coaches, me and a couple of Korean buddies, and the other kids are paying big money to play on a private team. They come, and if they don't perform, that coach loses his job.
True.
The parents wonder why they're paying so much money and not getting the results. And he had them in between the first and second period and he lined them all up, sat them all down, and he wrapped them all in the head with a stick.
Whoa!
And I thought, we're never playing one of these teams again. I can't handle that. I want to hit that guy in the head.
Mm-hmm.
And that was only probably 5-6 years ago. So
yeah, sports over
is
here are
definitely
very different
still
than just in the classroom. The classroom has evolved.
Sure.
I don't think sports has
Right.
when it comes to discipline like that.
And I think that's the money involved, and trying to get the most out of them. Although it's not the most effective technique, definitely it still exists as a test to all these athletes now coming out and saying, when I was 13, 15, 16, and now they're 18, 19, 20, all my coaches assaulted me, abused me, hit me, beat me. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Anyway, so if your coaches do abuse you, or I think something we can learn is just jump in the ice water on May 12th, and that'll keep the bruising and and the swelling down.
It'll definitely make you forget about it.
No, no doubt. But anyways, Troy, I want to say thank you very much for
My pleasure, fellas.
for coming out, and we'll see you in the summer, right?
Next time I expect now all the times when I come visit that I be recorded. So, for
I
posterity. This is what I was expecting when I moved back home.
Very nice. Thanks for coming
I
out, man.
appreciate it, fellas. Good catching up with you.
Take it
care.
easy.